I tried at one time to have a studio at home, and it was impossible to do anything. I couldn't separate my studio work from the life that I was, trying to proceed with, making dinner and doing the laundry and all of that. It completely gets in the way. Artists aren't necessarily pumping away in their studios blindly, knowing exactly what they're doing. But certainly for me, every day is a complete challenge of not knowing whether it's going to work out, or what I should be doing, or whether what I'm doing is going to end up, or how I might hang the drawing once it's finished. I have more moments like that than I do of certainty about it. I think it's really important for an artist to have her own space. It's one way of kind of getting away from the stresses of your day-to-day life. I think a lot of the time there's a lot of things that will distract you. Certainly having a studio allows me a physical space to make larger scale works than I would be able to in a living room or in a basement or something. But it also gives me a mental space that even if I'm not physically doing the work, that I'm able to remember why I'm here and why I have the space, which is, of course, to allow my creativity to develop. Ginny and I met in Cégep, so that would have been about 6 or 7 years ago. I guess it was last year, we met up in London and decided that we would come back to Montreal. It was sort of a commitment to come back to this city that we both find very creative and inspirational. So we decided to come back and get a studio together. And I think that that's worked fantastically for both of us. We're able to afford this place, firstly. And secondly, that she has a completely different way of working than I do. You can recognize her paintings quite easily. She's sort of chosen a theme and continues to work with that. And in that sense, I think our work is very different, which makes, I think, for a very good dynamic between the two of us in this space, because we don't interfere with each other's thoughts. We're able to I'm able to proceed on my own, even when she's here. This space is big enough that I'm able to move around. It has perfect amount of lighting and windows, and a real sense of kind of an openness that I think is reflected in the work that I do, and that it is important to be influenced by the space that you're working in. I'm really trying to come in and work when I feel like it, and that the work, and hopefully in that sense, the work will reflect my own enthusiasm for what I'm trying to do. This one isn't finished yet. I'm trying to make it look a little bit more like that, so I'm going to have to bring out some more of the darks and the bright pink, I think, to make it a little bit more vibrant. They're going into a show that I'm having in May, so I'm going to work on it a bit and just see if I can get it the way I like it. They're quite heavy, so.
But I can't really talk with the mask on.
I first thought of the idea in Newfoundland. I was doing an artist residency. They have, you kind of apply for this thing and you go there and you spend about a month in this sort of cabin right on the edge of the ocean. And so I had a lot of thinking time, and the ocean was right there and it was all very spooky. So I think it probably had something to do with spirits. They're plaster casts of my own face, so I put it's the same kind of stuff that you'd use to kind of make, if you broke your arm, you'd have a cast. So I did that on my face. What's interesting was that they came out, a lot of them came out looking quite different, so that was sort of an unexpected surprise. So normally they would be hung with wire coming out the top and the bottom. They sort of are suspended from the ceiling but then anchored to the ground. So they don't sort of sway back and forth, but they kind of move and vibrate a bit as you walk through them. I've polished them up with graphite, and on the inside also did graphite, and I wrote inside of them. And the writing is it was just sort of my thoughts of the day. So it was kind of in the installation, having all the different masks with all the different thoughts, sort of. So they're not really meant to be read, but you could if you tried, I guess. But because they're done in pencil, it's sort of shiny, and it's sort of hard to read, so it's a little bit elusive. I think sound affects the way we see things. For example, I was doing landscape paintings, which means that I was depending entirely on the visual information required in a landscape. But landscape, of course, is much more than that, or the experience of being in a landscape has many more sides to it. You know, there's sounds, there's the temperature of the air, there's the weather, there's the wind, which doesn't come across necessarily in paintings because they're static and they're two-dimensional.